pit stop. It's a pit stop. Pit stop. It's a pit stop. Pit stop. It's a pit stop. Pit stop. And we are back with your Purple Pants podcast pit stop coverage of Amazing Race season 5. Episode 9. I'm so excited to be joined by my amazing co-host, the winner of Amazing Race season 29. She may have had ravioli for breakfast this morning, but she is here. Ms. Brooke Camhigh, how are you?
I was told as long as you have something for breakfast, then the day is off to a good start. So if it was ravioli and garlic nuts, it was ravioli and garlic nuts. Whatever. Breakfast
Sounds good to me. I am super excited. We have a friend to the show. It's not their first time on the Purple Pants podcast, but definitely a fan favorite. One half of Cory and Rob from Amazing Race season 35. We've got Cory McArthur with us this morning. How are you, Cory?
Hey, y'all. I am doing great. I am so pumped to be part of this deep dive to the older seasons. This is what I think is one of the most iconic seasons of The Amazing Race ever. And it's got 2 of probably the 3 most memorable moments in the entire show's history. So I'm pumped to get to talk about it with y'all.
What did you have for breakfast, Cory?
Yes.
I had 3 eggs.
So, same nutritional value as me. Cool.
Yes.
I would rather have a ravioli, I'll be honest. That sounds
good.
Really good.
I have to say, though, Cory, I am a newer era of Amazing Race, baby. Brooke has, converted me into loving Amazing Race. And, I love season 35. I love season 33, 34, 36.
29.
And 29 was good, too. But I have to say, Cory, watching season 5, I don't know if it holds a candle to season 35. I am shocked at how good Amazing Race is. I'm watching these episodes each week with the viewers and everyone, and I'm like, can it get any better? And then we get to episode 9, and I'm like, we just you don't know to pay your taxi by now? We are still here. Okay.
I hope you're not talking about Linda, because frankly, she was not in the wrong, and we will talk about this when we get there. No. Oh, we're gonna have another fight. Cory, what's your definition of a elimination?
Yeah, okay. Yes, Cory, listen. All right, sorry, Cory. I know you're about to answer something, but we need to settle this debate here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not wrong. I have had people reach. Okay, I'm not gonna say what my position is.
No, I'm not going to say what mine is. I'm just going to ask the question.
Have you heard the term elimination?
Yes, I can.
What do you know it to
where
be?
you both stand. From my perspective, a elimination is when Phil comes and meets you on the course to eliminate you because you did not make it to the mat. I've heard people use it interchangeably in other places and just use it as when Phil eliminates you. I personally like to use it as the term of Phil comes and meets you out on the race course. You are eliminated.
Bryce, he's agreeing with me. What are you talking about?
He's agreeing with me.
Hold on. Wait, follow-up question. No, hold on. Bryce, hold on. Cory, if you have decided you're not going to continue.
No, but don't ask that. Don't ask that.
Hold on. Okay. I'm going to ask in a good way. This is what I do for a living. If you have decided you're not going to continue and you've decided to stop and you're not going to continue, you've decided you're not going to do the race anymore, you're quitting, and Phil comes to you on the race course to eliminate you, is that a elimination, yes or no?
I'm going to go with no, but here's my reason.
Okay.
You're withdrawing from the race, and I don't think you deserve to get eliminated. But for the closure of television, Phil has to be there. So he's going to be there no matter what.
One more follow-up question. No, what if it is a...
Your Honor.
I have one more question.
Leading, Your Honor. She is leading.
It's not allowed. So my question is this. In a situation where perhaps it's a non-elimination leg and you've decided to quit, you can't quit because you would have kept going no matter what. What if Phil comes out on the race course and it's a non-elimination leg and they said they're going to stop? Is that a elimination or no? But quitting has nothing to do with a elimination. When Phil comes to the race course and eliminates you, that is a full all right, sorry. We started this bad.
Yeah.
I know.
No, this is really interesting. It's really interesting. I think that's such a gray area. But if you quit the race, you quit the race.
Sure. I'm not saying you're not quitting. I'm just saying the act of telling you you're no longer in the race by virtue of you quit or Phil says you're the last one there or whatever. I'm not saying a Phil elimination in my mind has nothing to do with how your race ends. Quit, not quit, still searching for a clue, whatever. The Phil elimination is the act of Phil coming out on the race course and telling you your time is done here.
You have every right to your opinion, although I disagree with it.
I'm with Cory, because you just agreed with his elimination explanation was that he's coming to eliminate you.
Yes.
It's not called a filler visit.
What show were you on? I feel like
hey, listen, at this point, I was on Amazing Race because that's how much I love it.
We're gonna find a guest between now and episode 12 that agrees with me and is smart.
Right is right and wrong is wrong. And there's a reason why I love Rob, because Rob had a son named Cory.
So this is I need to start vetting the guests before they come on here. So
you know what? Hold on, because you know what, Cory, it's the disrespects. It is. You know what,
I'm gonna let it slide.
Cory, let's just do this, because you know what, Brooke has been eliminated. Was that a elimination, Brooke?
That was quality. That was really good. I like that a lot. That was a elimination. She did not withdraw from the race.
She did not quit. She didn't quit. She got eliminated. Okay. That's, Brooke, this has been an ongoing battle. Yep. And, Brooke is it's hard for her. She is used to winning things. She's won season 29. And
this is why she's so good at hosting this and so good at The Amazing Race. Very competitive. And you got to have that competitive nature in everything you do.
Although I don't want to tell her, I do understand and kind of agree with her point, though, because it is kind of like Phil.
Speak on it. That's right.
Just standing right out of frame.
I'm here without being here because I wanted to see what would happen if I was gone. And I heard him say he kind of agrees with me, but now it's too late to walk it back because you've been so vocal on the other side. Anyway, this is fun.
I also just want to say, Bryce, I'm so glad that you're getting into old school Amazing Race, because I think that you will see here, as so many longtime Amazing Race fans have kind of established, there's similar to the way we think about Survivor. I feel like there's old school Amazing Race and there's new school Amazing Race. You'll see that there's so many rule changes throughout all the seasons, and I'm sure you've covered it. What with, the number of roadblocks, like this is the last season that you can do more than half of the roadblocks as one person. This is, I think, a season that there were so many rule changes in general. And it was also right around the peak of Amazing Race viewership. Fun fact, if you haven't looked at the numbers, The Amazing Race season 5 was the most watched season to this point, averaging a viewership of 11.7 million. And then season 6 and 7 followed that with 11 and 13. And then it sort of really peaked around there, holding at right around 10 to 11 million. And then right when we got to season 26, it dropped down closer to 7 million. And then once we got to, where we're at now, it's kind of sat around 5 million people. All of that's super caveated because Nielsen ratings are very, very, calculated. It's an estimate. It's not perfect. You also have to think about how streaming is impacting viewership nowadays. So there's a lot of caveats with the numbers, but I feel like what we're watching right now is peak television, peak Amazing Race. This is when it was the biggest it ever was.
And I've heard that some people have said that this season is what saved Amazing Race. I heard Amazing Race was on its way to getting canceled, and we got Myrna and, respectfully, my girl Shmyrna. They saved the Amazing Race. I mean, they saved it.
I'm not going to argue with that. That I believe you are correct on. So should we talk about it? Thank God there's no elimination this episode, because honestly, we would go for 45 minutes.
I mean, and
we have.
Yes, let's get into it, because there's so many interesting things that happen that I need Cory and I need your takes, Brooke, right in the first 5 minutes.
Okay, first 5 minutes. Here we go. So we have 5 teams left. They're at this desert oasis. We have Colin and Christy 10:51 in the morning, they're leaving. Brandon and Nicole are 40 minutes later at 11:27. Chip and Kim 11:41, followed by Linda and Karen a minute later, and Cammie and Carly at 12:14. So you have about an hour and a half, hour and 25 minutes between first and last. So teams now have to drive 35 miles to Wild Wadi, which is Dubai's water park. I don't know about you two, live for a water slide. I think there's nothing more fun on this planet than the biggest, tallest, fastest, throw me down a water slide. No?
I love a water slide. However, this was filmed in 2004, right?
Mhm.
I don't know why, but I have spent countless hours when I'm supposed to be working, or when I am working, I always need something in the background to, like, help me, motivate me. I don't know why I have watched, I want to say over like 7 hours of water slide horror clips. Like, you would be surprised at how many like accidents happen on
like
water
people
slides.
go flying off a water
They
slide
go flying
and die?
off, like seriously injured. And it's more of them in the tubes. You ever see people in like the circular tubes, and it's like
Is it like large people who get stuck, or is it like, what is happening?
It's all demographic, shapes, and sizes. But as I'm watching this slide, and you can kind of see the railing, and it says they're going 50 miles per hour. I am a thrill seeker, but I think I would be a little scared for this one, Cory, because I could just one wrong wiggle, and I'm off in the air in Abu Dhabi.
You're wiggly, so that's probably not the best. There is, and I'm sure Cory knows because it's a big thing, maybe 10 seasons from now, a team that ends up getting eliminated because after donning a pair of water wings, floaties, the female half of that team decides she's too scared to go down a water slide.
She's probably seen the videos that I've seen. I would be as well. Now, here's
it's
another
one of my
take.
favorite moments of Amazing Race ever, because another team heckles them to get them to get to pass them, because you only get a certain amount of time at the top of the slide before the team behind you, if there's a line, gets to go. And they're like, I wouldn't do it. I was scary. I think you'll die. And like heckles her to the point where she's like, okay, I can't do it. A fun fact about that team, they broke up at the rest stop.
Wow. Not amazing.
Not the
first, Amazing Race.
Probably won't be the last.
No, probably not.
Another thing that I love about this older era is that I love that we don't leave in like the group blockings that I have seen in the earlier seasons. But here is a critique that I had, right? Like, I love we get in at 10 a.m. and we're leaving at 10 p.m. But Wally don't open till 8 p.m. So it doesn't matter if you were 6 hours behind the last team, because it's like all the teams are just getting there and waiting.
But you need that. You need that. Otherwise, you're going to be if Colin and Christy were like 40 hours ahead at one point. Like, they'd never lose again. Like, if nothing ever was a bunching point. Like, it's necessary. And it makes for a better show. Because otherwise, someone's running and grabbing number one, and 6 hours later, someone's like, okay.
I mean, and that did happen. That did happen this episode. But that was just a critique of mine. Like, I like it. I love them leaving at dark. I think that's amazing. But also, it's like, we know it's not going to open till the morning. And I love the fact that Colin and Christy, Colin and Christy, they sleep anywhere. Like, they be so comfortable in their sleeping bags. People are like walking over them, and they're just like, I would be a little nervous, but
yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. But have you ever watched the first season of Amazing Race?
I haven't.
I think that is the biggest piece of context you'll get to why they do these blocked starts. If you watch the first season, there's a team in the finale that is days behind because they didn't have these bunching points as regularly.
They get eliminated. No, they don't. They can't even get eliminated because they're in a different country. Like, Phil can't even come to them. They just get a note on the race course that said the race is over.
Yes. There was a clue waiting for them at their next destination that said, this team crossed the finish line. It's over.
You don't win. Yeah. So anyway, my favorite part about this part where they're waiting for the water park to open is Chip and Kim, because they've decided they're going to do anything and everything they can to pump up Colin's ego to the point where he's so full of himself that he forgets that to do something and messes up. So their new goal, I think, toward the end of this race, rather than do well themselves, which is obviously the main goal, is see what you can do to mess up Colin. And it's so funny to watch Chip be like, Colin's like, you got here fast. And he's like, I was a wheelman for the mob. Like, he's just, and he's like, Colin, look at your muscles. They're so big. And Colin's like, I'm amazing. Like, it's just, it's glorious.
Brilliant. It is like Survivor level gameplay to me, where Chip is just psychoanalyzing this team to go, what is their downfall going to be? Because on the off chance we can't beat them, how do we make sure they beat themselves? And that is just brilliant.
Sometimes I love Chip. Sometimes I think Chip is a little too chipper at times. And in this moment is one of the reasons why I love Kim so much, because we don't really get to see Colin be nice often. And Chip and Kim arrive and Colin's like, yeah, we like Chip and Kim. We can trust them. Like, we don't mind working with them. And then they cut to Kim being like, I want Colin to self-destruct now. I'm like, yes, Kim. I love it. So it's so interesting just to see the back and forth between these teams.
And I also love that you hear Chip and Kim saying this is the honeymoon we never got to have. Like, they're just so enjoying the experience, which is really, really nice. Nicole's talking about how mosques are like Starbucks. They're on every corner. Karen is talking about how they're a threat and they're going to surprise you. Cammie and Carly have no money. And so they've decided they are going to flirt themselves to the next clue. I appreciate. Now, I think there have been several times this season when somebody loses money. Linda and Karen, this didn't happen to. You will see people are being allowed to ask for money during the rest stops, which I think is cheating and not allowed. Cammie and Carly waited until, now probably because they were at like a desert oasis and there was no one to ask, until they were driving to their next location. And they're just stopping random men on the street and offering back rubs and hugs and kisses for cash. And whatever it takes, because they now end up with more money than everybody else, and they end up with a private chauffeur to the water park because they find a man they think is very handsome in a very nice car, and he just agrees to shuttle them there. So whatever works.
They are using the sexual gifts that God has given them.
Whatever they are.
I think it's just Amazing Race was so savage the way they would just be like, oh, you're last, it's not elimination, give me your money. Go beg. Like that.
Go beg in the middle of nowhere.
And I'm sure we'll see if you continue this series. There's some moments where it gets kind of uncomfy or it gets really gross the way it happens. So it makes sense why they don't do it anymore. But it is like uncomfortable to watch at time. You know, some people that are clearly Americans just begging in other countries. And
right, on a TV show with all of these like cameras for $1 million, like having to beg with no clothes on their back and no money in their wallets. So it that part didn't age well, and I'm glad they changed it too, because it's no good.
Yeah. But it makes for interesting gameplay.
It does make for good gameplay. Okay, so everyone's at the water park. It opens 8 o'clock in the morning. Chip runs right by the board because he's so excited he doesn't see what he's doing. Brandon, Nicole, Cory, you should know Brandon and Nicole are on a team with Jesus and Satan, because sometimes they do things a little bit mischievous. And also apparently the prodigal son from the last episode, from episode 5 or whatever it is. So they're a team basically of 4. Brandon, Nicole, Jesus, and Satan. They are first down the water slide. Then you have Chip and Kim, Linda and Karen, Colin and Christy, and then the twins. The slide looks fun. But then again, I haven't watched hours and hours of water park horror stories, which is exactly what I'm going to do when we're done recording this podcast. And I'll probably change my stance on water slides. Yeah. So this is where a couple of things happen that we need to go like this. Read your clue. I brought it back because after the water slide, the clue says drive yourself to the airport. Brandon and Nicole and Jesus and Satan, read it correctly. Chip and Kim, hop a cab. Linda and Karen, read it correctly, but leave their fanny pack behind. Someone needs to be in charge of the fanny pack at all times. And then the other two do it correctly and it's no problem. But I don't know. I have to think that somebody sort of nudged Chip and Kim and said, read the clue again, because why else would they be reading it in the car and realize they have to turn around? They turned around, they got back in their car, no problem. I don't know why they didn't pay the cab if they've already paid the cab to follow them to the airport. And Linda and Karen go back, find the fanny pack, and everyone's on their way to the airport, blah, blah, whatever, who cares? Anybody? Feelings?
I think that is just brilliant editing, the way that they like go from, I wonder if anyone didn't read their clue. Cuts immediately to Chip and Kim in a cab. Like the show does such a good job of editing, and I love when they pick up one of these things. Someone's talking about something, and you show it happening. I think you're totally right. There's a possibility that someone nudged them, but I also think that I'm sure you experience this at times. There's that like paranoia of being on the race where sometimes if I have nothing
never
to
had
do,
that.
I reread my clue like 3-4 times. You know, I'm in the car going, is this right? Are we supposed to be in a taxi? Should we be doing this? Like, and
You and I had a team together with the whole time. Be like, is this right? I don't know. Do you think it's right? I don't know. Yeah, I was a ball of nerves the whole time.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's totally possible that they just naturally discovered it and went, oh no, like this is going to be it.
Then they get in the car and Chip's like, oh, well, and Kim's like, just get me to the airport.
Right. Okay.
And he's like, yes, ma'am, let's do it. Like, I really enjoy them. So anyway, everyone has to now go to, where are they going? India. Calcutta, India.
Calcutta.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not enough to go to South America and then Africa. And then where are they now? The Middle East and now India. And you'll see they then go to Oceania. This is the most ridiculous. This is season 30. Which one just happened? 36. This is season 36. Like this is like the 6th loop around for season 36 by episode 9 here. So teams have to fly to Calcutta. Everyone is on the same of the first 2 flights.
Can we talk the taxi real quick?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why
Yes.
In an amazing season of this level, why not have one team not pay their taxi? Let's have 2. Now, I am curious to know your thoughts on this, right? Because the first time I watched it, I was like, Linda is in the right. So when Linda and Karen go back to get their fanny pack, there's a taxi there. Linda says, can you take me to the airport?
Linda says, how do I get to the airport? Not can you take me? And he says, I'm going, follow me. Because I rewatched it. And
my rewatch, right? Like I hear what the guy is saying and I read the subtitles. I really do feel like there was some translation loss.
Okay.
Because I don't think that he was saying like, oh, I'm just going, follow me. I think that that's what like on fast pace, that's what you would think, because when we get to the airport, Linda says, oh, let me tip him $5. And the guy says, no. Look at my meter. My meter is running. And so at first I was with it. I was like, no, Linda is right. But then I had to start thinking about it. Like this taxi driver is driving you to the airport. You're following him. Like, I just feel like this isn't Kimmy and Carly, where that guy is like, I'll lead you there. I really do feel like Linda could be right. However, I do feel like when you are in someone else's country, when you don't actually know the language, I really do feel like as a guest in their country, I think the right thing to do is to pay the money. And that's just my bottom line. I just really feel like she should have paid him because he had his meter going.
Okay.
I think there's 2.
Corey, you're going to have to come be the deciding vote here. So you say your thing, because on my side, she said, how do I get to the airport? Not can you take me to the airport? And he said in English, I'm going to the airport. And for all she knew, he had a fare in the car and he was going anyway. He did not say, follow me, pay me. He just said, I'm going to the airport. So in my view, she did the right thing. She gave him a tip, which she didn't have to do because he was going there anyway. And he's like, no, my meter. And she's like, I didn't agree to pay you to go to the airport. You said you were going to the airport. Now, did it really matter? Because it wasn't $41. It was 41 dinar, and it ended up to be $15. Pay the money and move on. But this is now the 2nd episode in a row where someone nearly goes to jail for not paying a taxi for very different reasons. And I'm Team Linda. Corey, please weigh in, and this time maybe side with me. Thanks.
I think there's 2 important things to think about here. One, I think we are operating with a lot of different influence and cultural bias. And I think it's really difficult to know for certain the way that the driver perceived it. There's also different cultural norms that we might not be aware of. So my rule of thumb would be somewhat similar to Bryce was saying, when you're a guest in another country, you need to be overly cautious of how you are like playing a role in someone else's culture. And you need to be extra aware that there's different countries where their rules might be more, well, no, like I'm gonna, my business takes precedent over whatever. And like, I think it's a really difficult scenario, but I also think the more important lesson here in my mind is know the conversion rates. Whenever you're going someone, have some semblance of how far your dollar carries you, have the local currency and kind of go, all right, whatever, that's $15. It's not worth potentially going to the police station and missing out on a flight or whatever, like delaying your game to deal with the nuances of the judicial system in another country, not worth it. Be more aware of your scenario. Now, that's kind of asking a lot in early Amazing Race, because by the time this was filming, there had been like 3 that had aired. I don't know the exact timeline, but you're not very aware of how the game is played. A lot of the people aren't very cultured. This is pre-travel being as big as it was. So I think it's difficult.
Evidenced by the comments that are made when they get to India because you're racist showing. But I will say, I hear what you're saying, but I do think that Linda went above and beyond by giving a tip, because her question was, how do you get to the airport? Not, can you take me to the airport? I feel like she just like if she asked any other person on the street, how do I get there? But he said, I'm going anyway. He didn't say.
But it's a taxi.
You're more than likely right, Brooke. The thing is, I don't think you have the space to be right, because then it takes, all right, we go to the police station, I make my case.
Oh no, I agree. No, she did the right thing. You pay the $15, you're done. Agree. 100% agree.
You have to play the language advantage. I know there were taxi drivers that charged my dad and I 4 times what they should have. And my dad and I went, screw it, whatever, here's the money.
Big picture,
let's just like go. And if they have in the meter, you can't fight the meter. Like if they try to tell you,
unless you're calling,
unless you're calling
to go to jail and be arraigned the following morning. So like this is just 2 very different situations. Yeah. I'm with you. I was always in the same mindset of pay the cab, move on. If you have the money, you're okay to go. They'll give you more. Yes,
Brooke. Despite whether we agree or not, can we both agree that the best, first of all, and I know this season won an Emmy, but somebody give the cameraman a raise, because when Linda was having her dispute and they told her to get out of line, the way the cameraman zoomed in on Colin, and Colin was like, looky here. I cracked up. I literally rewind that like 7 times. The way Colin was just like, what do we have here?
And Christy, they were like licking their chops. They're like, it happens to other people too. Meanwhile, this lasted 10 seconds and Linda and Karen were back in the race, but it was pretty funny. You're absolutely right. So, okay. So all the teams are on the same flight to Mumbai. Everyone is on the next flight to Calcutta except Chip and Kim, who are on a flight 10 minutes behind. And I guess they can't get on the first one because they end up on the flight 10 minutes behind. Plane 1 lands and they're in India. And this is where maybe have a little bit of censor yourself a bit. Yeah, grace. Right. So, but honestly, I think Colin might be the worst one here, because Brandon is all, it doesn't smell good. Right. But you know what? First of all, New York City doesn't smell good, and we are a very first world country, right? So, okay, the twins are sort of shell-shocked. Colin is there going, it's so pretty. And Christy's like, dude, that doesn't look good on you. Like, don't do that. Like, you look like an idiot. He's like, well, everyone else is going to talk about how ugly and smelly it is. And then they cut to Linda and Karen, who are like, this is so pretty. And I love the ladies' outfits. And they're genuinely, like, into it. And then Chip and Kim are in a cab, and they are also very positive. But I think you can just tell a little bit of the immaturity of like Nikki at 22 and whatever, talking about the smell and the distaste she has for it. I would like to go to India. I've never been, but I hear it's very lovely. So
I also feel like, for me, I understand they're 22, but I just feel like ignorance is ignorance, right? And you don't have to be 22. You could be 7. And I feel like me as a social worker, right? Like I go into homes that like I would not want to leave my trash in, right? However, I have to go in that home and I have to make my client feel comfortable talking to me. And like, I can't go in their home and be like, I have to, even if I don't want to sit on the couch, I'll sit on the end of it. And it's just the respect. And it's like, we all are one step away. We're all one paycheck away. Like, it's for me, it's just like, have respect. This is a different culture. Like, to them, they could look at how we live disgusting, but like, just sometimes it's that American arrogance that I think we really see a lot in this season, but it also kind of like checks me a little bit, where sometimes it's like, we all have blinders. So it was a little uncomfortable and hard to watch.
Wait till next season. There you are. Okay.
I think you make a really good point that the respect is such an important part of day-to-day life. And I kind of think that Amazing Race actually played a lot of it played a big role in a lot of growth for people in America to see cultures shown so authentically. And I think it opened a lot of people's eyes to the differences in cultures. And so I think you'll see, like you're saying, as you go on, more people adopt that mindset of, okay, I respect it because it is different. And there's a lot of different factors that play a role into the way that their culture operates. And I also think that this is done in an era that's sort of the beginning of reality TV. And so people didn't really have an idea of what it meant like to be portrayed on television. And so I think people were more willing to be authentically themselves. And I think authenticity with ignorance makes it look even worse. And that's a combination.
Meanwhile, Nicole and Brandon were happy to have all the people from the smelly country help them push the car with no problem. So, maybe we don't look down on the people of this country because they are jumping to help you for no money and cheering and being kind because they were lovely human beings who were there to help their fellow man and woman. But okay, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Look, you read my mind. We can agree on that.
Also, karma bites Brandon and Nikki and Jesus and Satan because their car gets a flat tire and they need to hop in a new cab. It doesn't take much time away from them. That's not what does it to them. But karma. Okay.
I do also love as they're going to their, I think, checkpoint or detour. Like, I love how stressed they are of the traffic, and they're like, "Oh my God, are we going to get there?" I'm like, have y'all never seen Philadelphia 76 on a Friday at 3:30? Have you ever drove into New York City? Like, I'm like,
never.
regular operating business hours.
I mean, unless you're Chip and Kim, and karma also rewards the kind because their cab driver has like some shortcut where he's bopping through the streets, no problem. But Colin and Chrissy get to the checkpoint first. There's a yield. They don't use it. They don't even think about the fast forward because they've already used one. So they cannot use this one. You can only use one a season. Chip and Kim don't take the fast forward because they don't realize where they are in line and they think somebody else must have already taken it. Brandon and Nicole no one takes it for the same reason. They think somebody else will have already taken it. And everybody goes to the next challenge, which is not an easy one, especially difficult if you're having a hissy fit. And it is, you have to go there. I have to remember the name of it, but whatever. Who's ready to get down and dirty? You have to collect, the mud is already there for you. Use a traditional Indian mold to create 20 mud bricks, which needs to pass quality inspection. Every guy does it because let's get real. And then you have Cammie and Karen because it's her turn.
I love when Chip read the clue though. It was like, get down and dirty. Chip was like, me, of course. Right. Because
and Kim's like, that's right.
Right.
It's really funny. So anyway, Colin, he is packing it. He is packing it, Christy. Like, back off and leave him alone. This is another rule that was changed. I don't think it was changed after season 5 because I saw it happen several times later. But a rule at this point is if you are the non-participant in a roadblock, you cannot help in any way. You can provide encouragement, but you cannot help. Like, I remember as recently as season 26, there was a roadblock that was happening. And Haley and Blair, who were a team, Haley was like, the screwdriver's over there. Like, that would have given them a penalty had the rule not been different. Or maybe they just didn't hear her do it. But she was like me and she was chatty, so I feel like they would have heard. Anyway, Colin's having a hissy fit. Chip is getting them right off the bat. He's talking about how his grandpa Lou worked at a brickyard, and this is for Lou. And just always, you know how like with Ricky and Cesar last season, we're like, they've done a little bit of everything. Like, they're just good at everything. Chip has a story for everything. The reason he's a fast driver, obviously not true. He was not a wheelman for the mob, but still just funny. But his uncle was a bricklayer or whatever they've got. There's always some reason they're good at stuff. And Karen, like, in the surprise to Chip and Kim and everybody else, is so good at this because apparently it's like baking bread. She throws it in the loaf pan. She's making bricks and they are out of their seconds. They are doing so well. But anyway, Brandon is probably doing the worst. He can't get them right. Nikki is just sitting there being like, just do something. Just whatever. And he's like, well, let's go. She says, let's go for the fast forward because everyone is here. And this is one of my favorite moments of the season. Let's discuss the fast forward because, Bryce, if you remember correctly, one of Brooke's 3 biggest bits of advice is never do a fast forward in India.
Don't take a transfer in Frankfurt.
Yes.
Well, I'm learning. I don't know what the other one is.
There's more.
But before we get here, can we just also on this podcast, Cory, I really love to give, praise to teams. Obviously, I love Rob, and you happen to be his son. So by adjacent, I love you. I love Danny and Angie.
I think you're great independently, but that's just me. Next time, agree with me when we're arguing.
But what I love is that we get to see a Anthony and Bailey before an Anthony and Bailey moment happens, right? Like this is like the first time we get to see an Anthony Bailey moment of someone switching, going, and then coming back. Like, Anthony and Bailey were ahead of their time. I don't care what nobody says. And Cory, they would have laid the bricks good. I just know that Bailey and the way that his hair is, the way that he thinks of different things, I just know he would have been like, Anthony, look, I got it. Colin, can you do this? Like, I just know they would have been good at it.
Do you think they would have shaved their heads if they went in time?
I don't know. No, that's a hard one because Anthony and Bailey, they do love their hair. So
I'm going to find that out for you before the next episode. I'm going to find out from Anthony and Bailey, would they be willing to shave their heads for the Amazing Race? Cory, would you have shaved your head?
There's not a doubt in my mind. My dad and I discussed before the race, is there anything we would say no to? And we couldn't think of one. We were like, yeah, we'll do a tattoo. Sure, whatever. I think for a fast forward, for a challenge, there's nothing we would have not done. My dad, we didn't even need it. And to this day, he'll think, man, if we had gotten to those tarantulas a couple minutes sooner, he wants to have gotten that express pass for the bugs. And I remember I'm looking at him that would have probably been the hardest thing for me to do because I hate spiders. That's the one I would hesitate. The one. But my dad's I would have helped you clean up the rest of yours.
We love Rob. Now, would y'all climb up a 700 steps for a fast forward?
That'd be tough. I'd have to think about that one.
Spiders, nothing with a spider. I would have been out. If you had to eat that to keep going, it would have been the end of the line for one Miss Brookham. Anyway, okay. So, but thankfully no spiders in this one. So Brandon and Nicole go to do the fast forward. They have to make their way to this temple. First of all, temple in India for a good luck ceremony. Just think it through. And now, in all fairness, this is the first time that shave your head has been a thing. So I am looking at it with Monday morning quarterback style. Hindsight is 2020. But engage in a Hindu cleansing ritual.
It will not be the last time.
It will not be the last time. And it's funny because there are times where teams do it. I do know additional times where teams don't do it because I just got extensions and I can't shave my head. That's not me. That is another contestant. I paid a lot of money for these extensions and I'm not shaving my head. Several seasons from now.
You can buy.
It's not $1 million. I will say this. If you're going to hand me a check at that spot, once I've shaved my head, okay. Other than that, How about this? All
right, Brooke, let's say 3 seasons from now, it's an all-star season. You get the call back. You are on the finale. And to start the finale, the final episode, the challenge it's a route info. Everyone must shave their head. Are you doing it to compete in the rest of the finale?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Wow. Okay.
It's the final leg. Yeah, if it's the final leg and yeah, okay, I guess.
Now, if keep it in line what Cory is saying, if Phil is there to read the clue, would that be a Phil haircut?
Whenever Phil is on the course, it's a for something.
Okay.
So it's a for something. That's
a cut.
It's a for cut, right? Okay.
No, that's a city in Thailand.
Oh,
that's Phuket.
Ring the bell. That's witty. He's witty and he's got great hair until he shaves it. Okay, so
I'm slow. I didn't get it. I was like, no, that's Phuket. Okay, sorry, Cory.
All good.
Okay, so Brandon.
Sorry. Okay, that was funny. Okay, it hit me late, Cory. It hit me late. I'm a
So Brandon and Nicole and Jesus and Satan go for the fast forward, but only Brandon and Nicole are going to have to shave their heads. Jesus and Satan are off the hook. So they get there and they are understandably a little taken aback. They have decided they are both models. Brandon makes his money from his hair. And he's all, my hair will grow back, but I'm not going to make her shave her beautiful. She was never doing it. There was no chance she was doing this. So anyway.
This is why I do love Brandon, though, because if I'm in that car, I don't know if I'm giving you that much grace. When Nikki's like, it's my fault. It is. But I thought Brandon showed her so much grace. And I thought Brandon was like, no, we decided this together. And I was like, okay, there's Jesus with them, because Satan was with them in the cab ride, like, but Jesus is riding back with them, because I felt like Brandon was really, really kind to her, because in that moment, I would have felt like we're losing, like we're out. This is the episode that we are losing. And I thought that Brandon showed a lot of grace.
And that's not the first time. He does, in watching the season, have a lot of grace. And I like the fact also that he doesn't just like roll over. He will stand up and say, Nikki, like, take a minute and look at what you're saying. Look at how you're like, it's $20. That'll change this guy's life, or at least it could. And we don't need it. So pay it forward. So I like Brandon's reactions a lot. But I will say, this is a joint decision. Nobody forced you to get in the cab. And he... I don't know. He does give a lot of grace, but again, I don't think it's any one person's fault. You guys, one person made the suggestion, but you guys decided to go together, and you're a team, and it is what it is. That's my thoughts.
I also do love another moment of Colin this episode, when Brandon and Nikki go, and I guess Colin says to Christy, like, they're going for the fast forward, and then Colin's like, of course they are, we're all here. I just loved how pissed Colin was in that moment, because Colin's like, we should be doing that. I just love.
There's no way they would have done it. I cannot picture a world. I don't think I could picture a world where either of them shaved their head, but especially Chris. I can't picture either of the beauty queens shaving their head. And that's not a slight. This girl, not a beauty queen, also would not shave her head. So whatever.
You were shaving for a cut.
For a cut in Phuket.
And Phuket.
Also, probably don't go to a Hindu cleansing ritual, good luck ritual in Thailand. When it says like good luck cleansing ritual, just ding ding, shave your head.
I was thinking of colonic though. I was thinking like clean. I was like, you know. That's
Do you imagine them getting a colonic on television? Okay, it's not. This is not like.
That's
no, was it Katie Couric who did like you watched her colonoscopy? Like, these are things that should not be televised. I don't think.
I think that's an episode of the Practical Jokers too. At some point, I think one of them does that.
I love them. Them.
Corey, if Phil gave the colonic, would it be funky?
A philonic? It's now a philonic.
Funk? I can't even say it. Okay.
I think this has gotten off the rails. Great content.
Bring us back, Corey. Bring us back.
But okay, last one. If Phil is a comedian, is it a for joke? Okay.
What's wrong with you?
Or is it for funny? I can't even do the Phil funny.
For funny?
For funny.
It would just be funny. P-H-U-N-N-Y. Funny.
But you just got a for funny.
Okay. Corey, help us.
Sorry.
Okay, so they get to go back. They end up going back to the Roadblock. We're here at the Roadblock, and they know for a fact they're in last. I think the way that they carry themselves at the end is interesting, because especially early Amazing Race, you don't see a lot of people who know they're in last place carry themselves in an even remotely neutral light. It is typically, ho-hum, this sucks, I hate it. So I think that's one thing that they do a good job of kind of going, you know what, let's operate with some peace.
But before we get there, sorry, no, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
No, I was going to say this also, as someone that has never played the Amazing Race, right? I think as a viewer,
knows what everything is about and all the definitions.
When you write, you write. But I think as a viewer, this gave me a lot of perspective, because I'm oftentimes very vocal on what I see and I'm yelling. But when Brandon got back there and all of a sudden he's killing it, and he's like, he thinks it's the pressure of all of the teams there. I was like, thinking of putting myself in that situation, I probably would be messing up the bricks as well, trying to get it so fast, knowing that all the other teams were there, because the way that he was just able to brick it out, I was like, wow. But also, I didn't know if it was editing. He could have just took a really long time, but they could just edit all the great ones.
The pressure is real. Having done several challenges where everyone's there and no one's there, it is a very different approach. Like, this felt really similar to the rice paper challenge my dad and I did in Vietnam, where it was everyone's doing the fruit. We've seen every team within 10 minutes of each other show up at the rice paper, and it's similar. It's just a rinse and repeat. Once you get it, you know what you're doing, and you have to do it again and again and get 20. Like, it is a lot of pressure to go, we just have to figure out how to do it as quick as possible. And so you can't get that first one just right because you're trying to just crank them out systematically. But then once you get it, you kind of get it. It's just copy paste, do it again and again and again.
I will say, so Colin gets it first, even though he's blamed Christy for everything that's gone wrong in the world. He gets it. And then Linda and Karen get it second, which is amazing. And then Chip and Kim, and then the twins. And then Brandon comes back. There's no pressure, and he does significantly better. I think this is also, Bryce, like we've talked about previously, the judges become a little bit more lenient as the day goes on. But Brandon's did look quite good. So I think everything was sort of fine. So after the roadblock, teams have to take a train 13 miles to a station back in Calcutta to find their next clue. Chip and Kim and Colin and Christy get on the first train. Christy's all, somebody touch me. Colin's ready to rip some guy's head off. And she's like, just stop. And you've already almost gone to jail. I don't know what this country's jail is like. Let's not do that. The train, by the way, I get that it's crowded, but like, get on the 4-5 here in New York City at rush hour, and it's going to be even more crowded than that. I can't believe the cameramen got in there. And also, I would think had to get releases for everybody that they got on the train because they showed their faces, since the people didn't speak, they didn't need to sign a release. But I would imagine that they had to get people to sign things. So anyway, they're in the train. They get good pictures of it. Linda and Karen get to the train station, and they can't buy tickets because all they have is dollars. So rather than go to like any cab driver first and say, can you just trade me some money? They're going to go to the bank, which is all the way back in Calcutta, until Linda starts screaming and being like, no, does a horrible conversion for themselves, gets themselves local currency. Karen has had it. Karen is over Linda.
Karen and
She's like, Linda is screaming, and I just need her to shut up. Like, you don't normally see them bicker, but this was a moment where I think Karen had just sort of, the frequency of Linda's voice has gotten to her, and she needs a moment.
Yeah, I think Linda and Karen are like such a great team for content. They are so fun to watch. This is obviously, like, similar to what you were saying earlier, operating with a lot of hindsight bias. But that is strike 2 on them for being underprepared. Like, you need to have local currency. Like, one of the biggest things I think is just when you're going somewhere new, you're more than likely going to have the currency to get yourself transit or pay your taxi or whatever it is. I think it's worth it when you're at the airport or you're in like a city center, get some cash, just have something local, swap with someone nearby, like just have a way to be able to purchase goods and services. Because if you get set back somewhere out remote, you could lose 2 hours. You could lose so much more time. You could miss a train as opposed to taking 10 minutes when you're at the airport, whatever it is. When you're on your, like, they were in a major city, transferred in India, you have downtime. Go to the currency exchange, get money. That's 2 strikes in one episode.
But I will say, most countries, while they won't necessarily take the currency of another country, usually do take the dollar. So especially if you're at a train station, it's not like just a guy on the street who's like, I don't want this money. I'm a little surprised the train station didn't take dollars, but because they usually do.
I was just laughing at the train station guy. I loved him. He's like me at my part-time job. Did you see I was just throwing the tickets? Like, here, take it. I don't want to be here. Go ahead. Similarly to Cory, though, this episode for me, now I love the bowling moms. I love Linda and Karen, but this was strike two for me for Linda. I just feel like Linda's privilege this episode was like kind of rearing its head a little bit. And I know that she was frustrated, but I did not like the way that she was talking to the ticket counter person. I did not like the way that she was talking to the locals. I did not like the way that she was talking to the taxi driver. Like, I felt like I understand the pressure. Like, I get that, but there was just a sense of like entitlement that Linda was carrying this episode that was like strike two for me. Although I love the bowling moms, and again, it's 2004. Like Cory said, you don't really know what you are seeing yourself in these high pressure situations, but it was strike two for me for Linda this episode.
Okay. So anyway, they all go to the Detour. Cammy and Carly are on the third train. Brandon and Nicole are God knows where. So they're going to the Detour. You have Heavy But Short, which is travel 10 miles to this road and transport a taxi a half a mile to a local garage. How teams didn't Heavy But Short. Pete, the teams thought you were going to drive this cab? Like, what doesn't even make any sense. Or Light But Long, which nobody does. Travel to this flower market, find a stall, receive a garland, release into the Ganges for good luck. I kind of like
I wanted
Light
to see
But
that.
Long. Yeah, I think it would have been really pretty to watch, but nobody does it because everyone wants to do the harder thing that gets done quickly. So you have Brandon, Nicole, Jesus, and Satan. Nicole is not happy at this point. She's just like, she's had enough of India. She's kind of miserable. She is, and because they're also last, and she's just sort of like, this is, what are we even doing with ourselves? But first, we have Colin and Chrissy and Chip and Kim. They get there together. They're going at the same time. Christy gets in a car, and all of these amazing people from like locals who have nothing to gain, like there's no reason to be helpful other than they are kind human beings, start pushing the car. The other car, Chip gets his butt into the car and gets a free ride. And Kim's like, hi. You could be Linda and Karen, and both of them get in the car and get a free ride.
But for y'all to say that Kim don't do nothing, for y'all to say that Kim, listen, this wasn't a detour, but Kim was pushing. So shout out to my girl Kim.
Yeah, I think it was brilliant that they were able to get all of those people to help them out too. Like the fact that so quickly they're like, guys, come help us, everyone. And like that made it so much easier, because imagine just pushing that by yourself. That would be a nightmare.
But what's so interesting is like, this is India. This is a third world country, and people are just ready and willing and able to help. Come to New York City and be like, hey guys, can you come help me? People are going to look at you and be like, what are you talking about? I'm not pushing this taxi. Now, there are New Yorkers who are nice. People are kinder than you think they are, and they will help. But this was like everyone in the neighborhood came out to help. That doesn't happen in places. So maybe have a little bit more grace toward the country, because these people are helping you finish something you wouldn't be able to do on your own. That's it. Thank you.
Clock it. Now, since I do have the Amazing Race almanacs here between Cory and Brooke, in the new era, if this were to happen, because I know a lot of rules have changed in this season, we see a lot of people helping the teams. Do you think that people on the street will be able to push the car if this was in season 35?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident about that. If there was any rule against it, they'd be very explicit about that. But I'd be surprised. I think the show likes to be able to highlight the cultural differences, like Brooke is alluding to here, that people in India are probably going to be more willing to help you out than if you're in New York City. And so I think whenever you can get an authentic interaction with a local, they are all for it. That's going to be great TV.
And you will see in this season, there are times where it will say, you can't ask so-and-so for help. You can't do this. So I think it would say in the clue. But I think part of the beauty of this is have the locals help you, because I get it doesn't have an engine, but it's a car. You expect like two like not so strong big people to be able to push a car. Like, it's probably not the easiest thing in the world to do. But yes, I do think they'd be able to help in later.
Although I would have liked to have seen Colin try and go, I can push a car. I would have liked to see that. That would be funny.
You guys have seen season 36 of The Amazing Race, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do think there is a contestant that would need the help of the community. His name starts with R.
And with odd.
And although this wasn't a part of his challenge, I feel like he completed this. It was foreshadowing because he completed this challenge all by himself.
Really? He just went, boop, and that car came right out of the mud. Guys, a beast. Okay, so Linda and Karen are both in the car. Cammie and Carly get help from the locals. They're in 4th place. And then you have Chip and Kim and Colin and Christy at this point who are battling for first. You have to go to Victoria Memorial for the check-in. And one other thing that I really did like, Brandon and Nicole are behind. At this point, when Colin and Christy and Chip and Kim are about to go to the pit stop, Brandon and Nicole are waiting for the train to get to the detour. Brandon is shaking hands with young children. He's like enjoying his surroundings. He's making friends. Nicole's like, could you just come be with me? Like, I'm uncomfortable. And okay, I get it. You're a little claustrophobic. People are staring at you. Relax. Like, you're surrounded by security and cameras. Like, you're going to be okay. But Brandon, there's just sort of the difference between the two of them. He was like meeting children and shaking hands and getting to know the locals because you had 5 minutes to kill before a train. Why not soak up the experience? I think it's just sort of, you can see the differences in how they were running the race that day, because there are times where she's very good. That day was not her best day.
Yeah. And I also want to empathize with her. Like, I could also feel her being like, oh, they're staring at me, making me feel uncomfortable. Right. But also it's like, you are filming a show. Right. You have a camera crew. Like, there is cause for people to like be like, what are they doing?
Also, where else are they gonna look? You're like in a little train car, like you're looking want everyone to close their eye. Like, come on.
Yeah. I for the most part agree with you. I also think there is probably some like gender privilege in that experience, and that as a guy, he can probably more easily let his guard down around all those people. It doesn't seem like there were a ton of women, and I've heard that they don't take public transit in countries like India anymore because there have been so many incidents of, harassment, or the way they've treated women on the show have been really, really negative. And so I don't want to completely discount her experience. It probably was uncomfortable. It sounded like someone grabbed Christy when she was on the train. And so like, I applaud Colin for standing up for her.
I applaud Christy for saying, just let it be. And honestly, I see, and as a woman who has been on the very crowded subway and who has had something like that happen to her, and it's not comfortable, I totally get that. But Nicole could have stood next to Brandon and talked to the locals. She didn't have to stand off on the side by herself. She self-isolated. I'm not saying she put herself in a position to be harassed. I don't think she was harassed in this instance. I think she could have put herself in a position to have more fun in this situation. But I think that she was so focused on, we're last, we're dead in the water, it's over. And Brandon was all, let's enjoy this as long as we can while we still have the chance. So I get it. I've been there. It's happened to me. So I do see what she's saying, but
can we give Colin a little praise? Because when Christy said that, it would have had to been about 1,000 men on that train, and Colin would have been ready to take all 1,000 on, right? Because Colin was ready. Christy was like, listen, but.
Well, also, like, what are you, Colin, what's going to punch a guy on a train? And what are you going to do?
Yes, he was going to. He was literally about to do that.
But you can see in Christy's mind, like, okay, what happens after he punches one guy on the train?
Yeah.
Everybody else jumps on him, or what? He then punches 50 guys on the train, or then the cops come again. We know he doesn't do well when the cops.
And he will go to the police station.
Good on her for saying, Colin.
Christy's 100% in the right, absolutely. But it is awesome because you can see that was Colin's train of thought of, yes, I will fight them all.
I'll kill them all. So anyway, in rewarding his chivalrousness, I don't even know if that's what it is. Colin and Christy are first. They win a trip to exotic Mexico. Chip and Kim come in second. Linda and Karen are thrilled to come in top 3 for the first time, I believe. Cammie and Carly are fourth, and they go, who's fifth? Like, they're just so convinced they're last. And then Brandon and Nicole, Jesus and Satan show up. And it is the third non-elimination. The look on Brandon's face where you get to watch from him being like, it was good. Wait, what? Huh? What? We're still here? Like, you could see the gears turning and him realizing they're still in it. Nicole, as they're running to the pit stop, goes, I have a sweet boyfriend. That's all that matters. Like, she's trying to say something nice, whatever. I think, and then she says, as it's over, the Lord really wants us in this game. And so because the Lord has nothing better to do with his time than keep you in the Amazing Race, that must be true. They get to stay, and we will see what happens to them next week as they go to, I'm not even sure where's next thing, where they end up in New Zealand. They end up in the Philippines. There's still so many more countries to go, and this is leg 9, and they've already been to like 47 countries. Like it's amazing. I mean, it's a good one, Bryce. What do you think?
It is. I think it's amazing. I just hate the fact that Brooke won't tell me. I don't know who won, Cory, but I feel like it has to be Colin and Christy. Like, I really do feel like it has to be. Now, after this episode, though, and the way that Brooke sometimes makes them seem like, I don't know, it's not Colin and Christy. I also could see it being the bowling moms after this episode. Even though Linda is on strike too, I really do feel like the bowling moms have been making a conscious effort and moving forward. And when they get past that they can do, they've been killing it. So I don't know who's going to win this season. It's crazy.
Like all their mistakes in this episode, they still managed to come in third and not by much. So they do a lot of things correctly. I like the fact that you now have 5. It could be any of these 5.
Yeah.
So Cory, yeah. Who wins, Cory? Tell me, because Brooke won't.
I won't say who wins, but I will say this is one of the more competitive seasons. There are, I think, 3 of the all-time fan favorites. There's returning teams. This is going to be such a fun season to build your Amazing Race.
He knows who comes back. He does know who comes back, but he also knows that there's one time a winning team comes back, so he doesn't know who wins. So
great. So one other thing that's fun, I won't give specifics so as to not give spoilers away for this season, but there are 4 teams on this season that have a racing average under 4. So there are 4 iconic top 30% of Amazing Race teams of all time just from this season. And one of those has a sub 3 at a 2.46 average placement. So
I'm going to say that doesn't matter because all you got to do is be first in the last leg. So even if you have a racing average of 4 point something high, which is what I believe ours was, it was not sub 4.
Yep.
Doesn't
Yep.
matter. You can be last all the time.
I'm going to go on a limb,
It does not matter which, it doesn't matter how well you do leading up to the finale, but it shows you that there's a lot of consistency.
Yes, that's
in
true.
this race. There are people that are not having very big standard deviations from their placement. They are in the top 3, 4 without fail. So it's going to be a very, very close one. And this is probably one of my favorite finales of the entire show. So
I cannot wait for Bryce. I've already told Bryce, I am convinced that when he watches it, I am going to get a phone call screaming because it's such a good, there's so many changes and I'm not going to give anything away, but it is not one where you will know at the beginning how it's going to end. So
yeah, that makes me feel like it could be like the bowling moms or something. But I will say, Colin, I feel like one of those teams' averages that you're talking about, one of them has to be Colin and Christy.
Mm-hmm.
I know they are one of those teams. And also, without going into it, one of the teams I think has one of the best returning team seasons probably of all time, to where it is a very fun storyline to follow. So I can't wait for you to get through this one, get through that returning season, and just have that full character arc. It is fun to watch.
Ooh, it's the Purple Pants Podcast. You better listen in public, might make your stomach hurt. Ooh, it's the Purple Pants Podcast. You're trying to unwind, you better get that box wine. It's the Purple Pants Podcast. You're trying to get your snack, you better hurry right back though. It's the Purple Pants. It's the Purple Pants.